And what is it that we should do? This last week I had an opportunity. I was out and about walking, and I came across it looked like brothers and sisters. I assumed they were brother and sister, and they were frolicking in the rain, just jumping around in a big old puddle. You know, we don't get rain that often in California, but it was raining this weekend. They were just absolutely having a blast, soaking wet, absolutely soaking wet. And they were just frolicking around, and they were having so much fun. It was hard not to smile as you looked at them. You know, you kind of, whether externally or not, internally I was smiling. But I did. I knew I laughed out loud because I remember the days we used to play in the rain. But what was even more beautiful was that every now and then the two of them would look, and you're clearly soaking wet and playing, and they'd both look up and look over at their mother. And you could see them like waiting. And then she would smile brightly and laugh, and then they'd go back playing again. A reason why I bring that image up is I think that's a beautiful image of God. Because I think that God looks on us in our frolicking of our life, enjoying our life, and if we just look up every now and then, He will smile brightly at us and assure us that we are just fine, that we're loved just the way we are. It's a great image for me because I think sometimes life has a way of stealing our joy. You know, stuff comes on and stuff happens, and it's hard to, in a sense, frolic and to enjoy the life. And I get it, but joy is not about circumstances. Joy is not about what happens to us. Joy is about what we choose when stuff is happening to us. Joy is is a response that we have, regardless of what is happening to us. Now, look, I get it. I'm not naive enough to think that life is always, giving us a lovely, saucy day and sunny day in our life. I get that. But stuff happens in our life, and it can be hard. But joy is still a choice. It's a response to what happens in life. And now I get it. Like when things go wrong and either we suffer ill health or somebody inside our family suffer ill health or even die, it seems empty words to choose joy. But what we do when we choose joy is we're choosing to look on what we have or what we've even have had than what we have not. And that is a critical choice difference. And I know stuff comes in on us, whether it be ill health or whether it be life events, difficult stuff at work or in a personal life, when things start to fall apart. It is definitely a hard choice. But I think for most of us, most of the time, our joy just doesn't leave us because of a life event. It sort of leaks out. It just sort of leaks out in our life. We don't intend to do it, but we don't pay attention to the gift of life. And as a result, we just become slowly, the joy seems to leave us, and we hardly even notice it. It often comes about by busyness, where we're just too busy to be joyful, too busy to frolic around in the rain, too busy to take a sample of the gift of life. And we go churning along from day to day and week to week and even, God forbid, year to year, just chugging along with no joy in our life because we have never chosen it. That's the more dangerous or more nebulous version of the joyless life. But you see, the gospel today and the reading today from Paul's letter to his beloved community of Philippi, he tells them, rejoice. Rejoice in the Lord. I say it again, rejoice. And so what is it that the disciples going to John the Baptist asking, what should we do? It's rejoice. Be joyful. And look at our lives and find out how can we choose the joy. That's what we do today on this Gaudete Sunday. And despite the circumstances of our lives, we are called to choose that. Now I'm going to give you two instances with which to help break this open for a second. One is one is a life incident, and then the other one is a business. So the life events that happen to us can throw us off. I get that. I had one of those this weekend, and it's not that big compared to what some of you are dealing with, but I've been struggling with my hearing for some time. It's been a bit of a nuisance for me. And so I had to go to eventually I gave into it because it was getting really too much. So I went to the audiologist today, and they confirmed that I've lost over 50% of my hearing. And that was hard to hear, no pun intended. I did hear that. But as a result, I knew it was coming. Now, it's easy to let that seep in and affect us. Now, the good news is that they have technology, and fortunately now, a lot of you may not know this, but not all hearing loss can be enhanced by hearing aids. Some hearing loss falls outside the scope. Fortunately, mine, 90% of my hearing loss will be addressed by hearing aids. So I will have to choose to get those hearing aids relatively soon, in the next couple of weeks. But my point out of that is, and I know many of you are dealing with far greater health issues than that. In the midst of it, we still have a choice of how we respond to what happens to us. I still have 50%. I've lost 50, but I've still got 50. So it works out even. Right? So if I could just get my hearing aids, then I might pump that back up to where I need to be. Now, the other one is something that my spiritual director always asks every month. He'll always ask, and I go through all the stuff that's going on in my life, and he'll pause me. He says, wow, that sounds like really a lot of stuff going on. That's great. Brendan, I got one question for you. What's stealing your joy? And I know the answer. The answer is always the busyness. I could be doing all the right stuff, but the busyness is stealing joy. Because if I'm not doing it joyfully, then there is no witness that I do at this altar unless I have that joy in my heart. And the same is true for you. If you've allowed the busyness of your life, of season, to steal your joy, then it's time to steal it back. It's time to steal it back. And that's what we do this Sunday. It's Gaudete Sunday, which we pause and we say, rejoice in the Lord, rejoice. Now, if you're like me, it's hard, the busyness sort of creeps in on us. And suddenly we're spinning, and all of a sudden we're too busy to be joyful. Be mindful of that. That is not a movement of the Lord. That is not a movement of the good spirits. Because our busyness is stealing our joy. Now, there may be other things stealing your joy in your life. But understand that for all of us, it is a choice. We choose to respond to what is happening in life. But we need to be mindful of where we're at. If we do not have joy in our life, then we are not hearing the powerful message of the Lord. We're not responding to the powerful message of the Lord. Because the Lord's message at Christmas is He became one of us so that we would know of God's, the Father's love for us, and that there is a way that we're called to live in this world. And the way is Christ. So my friends, the disciples asked John the Baptist, what should we do? And we ask the same. What should we do? We should steal back our joy. Rejoice in the Lord. Rejoice always. I say again, rejoice.